Welcome to Galactic Nova Stories, where cosmic emotions come to life. Your journey begins now. A pale lavender dawn seeped across the upper dome of the Thiran spire, touching each crystalline panel with fractured beams of light. Zali stood motionless at the edge of the observation deck, arms folded across her midsection. From this height, the world below looked almost still, peaceful. But inside her a strange unrest churned. Her breath fogged slightly on the inner surface of the glass. She blinked slowly. Beyond the translucent energy shield, human ships cruised like silent predators in the upper atmosphere, sleek, utilitarian, foreign. Her gaze lingered on one in particular, a mid-sized scout vessel. It moved slower than the others, wounded perhaps, or simply hesitant. Why was she always drawn to them? She knew what the elders said. Curiosity toward humans was dangerous, undisciplined. Her kind had evolved past emotional entanglements. That's what they claimed. So why then did her chest feel tight every time she watched their vessels pass? A sharp mechanical screech shattered the calm. A flash of fire tore across the skyline. One of the human ships had broken formation, its side-spiraling into flame as it cracked through the atmosphere like a dying star. Zali didn't think. Her feet were already moving, boots echoing across the crystal floor. She sprinted through the corridor, cloak trailing behind her like shadow. Every pulse of the emergency beacon pierced her skin like a knife. One thought screamed in her mind. Someone's inside. Outside, smoke curled from the wreckage. The crash site, nestled against the canyon ridge, looked like a dying beast, sparking, groaning, barely holding together. A gust of wind lifted ash and dust into the air, stinging her eyes as she approached. Her boots slid slightly on the scorched metal plating. She found him beneath the bent fuselage, half-pinned between twisted beams. His uniform was torn at the shoulder, the skin beneath bloodied and burnt. One eye fluttered open, the other swollen. "Shut. Hey," he rasped, voice paper-thin. "You're not human." "No," she crouched, scanning his injuries. "But I can help you." His breathing was shallow, uneven. "Guess this is how I die then. Saved by a space angel." Zali frowned, confused. "I'm not an angel." He smiled faintly, even as he grimaced, in pain. "Yeah, they usually don't have glowing hair and purple eyes." "You're delirious." "Probably." He winced as he tried to shift. Zali reached beneath the beam, her hands glowing softly with biothermal light. "You'll worsen your injuries." "Don't move." He stilled, watching her as she carefully dislodged the debris pinning his leg. Her hands trembled slightly. He noticed. "You're nervous." "I've never touched a human before." He let out a soft chuckle. "We're not that different, are we?" She didn't answer. Instead, she touched his shoulder, letting a gentle current of energy seep into his skin. His expression shifted from pain to wonder. "That feels warm, like a sunbeam." "It's only temporary," she said. "Your body will still need time." There was silence between them for a long moment. The wind howled past the crumpled remains of the shuttle. Sparks flickered from a damaged console behind them. "I'm Kyle," he said finally. "Zali." He repeated her name softly, like tasting something delicate and new. "Zali, you saved me." "Why?" She looked away. "I don't know. Maybe because you looked scared. Maybe because I was tired of being told to feel nothing." He nodded slowly, eyes searching hers. "Feels like the universe keeps putting up walls between people like us. I was taught that contact with humans was forbidden. That emotional exposure is a vulnerability. Vulnerability's not a weakness." He reached up, brushing a strand of her hair behind her ear. His fingers trembled. "Sometimes it's the only honest thing we've got left." She didn't pull away. The wind kicked up again and Zali shifted closer to shield him with her cloak. Kyle stared at her hands, long, elegant, faintly glowing. Hesitantly, he took one into his own. His skin was rougher than hers, warmer, human. Zali swallowed. "Your kind greets with touch. I've seen it. Sometimes with lips." He blinked. "A kiss?" "Yes." She studied him. What does it mean? Kyle laughed quietly. That's not easy to answer. He hesitated. It can mean everything. Or nothing. It depends on who it's with. Show me, she whispered. His brows lifted, surprised, but not alarmed. Slowly, gently, he guided her hand to his lips. Instead of pressing a kiss, he turned it inward, letting her feel the warmth of his breath first. Then he kissed her knuckles, soft, reverent. Zali's breath caught, her chest fluttered. For a moment her mind was blank, then flooded with impressions. Softness, sincerity, longing. Her eyes widened. I felt something. He nodded. That's what it means. A long silence fell between them. Nothing but the wind, the soft ping of cooling metal, and the heartbeat she now felt through her hand. She closed her fingers around his. I don't understand it yet, she murmured. But I want to. Kyle leaned his head back, exhausted but smiling. Then stay. Every great bond starts with a single moment of courage. Galactic Nova Stories is just beginning, and your support matters. If you love emotional sci-fi tales, forbidden connections, and stories that stay with you, hit subscribe. It's free, and it helps us bring more stories from the stars to you. Kale stirred in the infirmary chamber, blinking against the soft violet light filtering through the ceiling's organic lattice. The air smelled faintly of silver moss and sterile resin. His side ached, and his leg throbbed in a dull, rhythmic pulse. But he was alive, and not alone. Zali sat beside him, one leg folded under her, the other dangling above the floor. She had changed into thinner robes, woven from Thyran silk that shimmered with subtle opalescence. Her eyes were fixed on his bioscan hovering mid-air, though her thoughts seemed far away. You stayed, Kyle said, voice still scratchy. Zali looked over, startled. You're awake. Didn't mean to nap through a rescue. He tried to sit up, winced, then laughed softly. Okay, pain still very real. She moved closer and offered a cup of blue fluid. This will help. He took it cautiously, sniffed it. It's not going to dissolve my insides, is it? Zali tilted her head. Only the damaged ones. He stared at her for a beat. Then she smiled. He drank, grimacing at the taste. That's indescribable. I warned you. Silence again, but this time it was comfortable. Zali's expression softened as she studied him, not just his injuries, but his posture, his small mannerisms, the way he gripped the cup, too, tightly like he wasn't used to being helped. You don't trust easily, she said, not unkindly. Kyle gave a small shrug. Military life doesn't leave much room for it. You get used to masks, half-truths. Zali looked down at her hands. We hide too, in different ways. He leaned back against the cushion, letting the strange warmth of the drink settle into his limbs. You're not like the others I've heard about. You imagined something colder, detached, mechanical. You feel more human than some humans I know. Zali let out a soft breath. I was told emotions are dangerous, that our evolution lies in leaving them behind. Kyle studied her for a moment. Do you believe that? She hesitated. No, she said quietly. Not anymore. The lights in the chamber dimmed slightly as the day cycle shifted. Outside, amber clouds swirled slowly across the horizon, casting long shadows into the room. Zali stood and moved to a wall panel. With a subtle gesture, she revealed a transparent screen, a view of the crash site below already being cleared by her people. Kyle followed her gaze. You risked a lot bringing me here, Zali nodded. If the elders find out, they'll punish you? She looked back at him. They'll erase your memory, send you away. I may be reassigned. Kyle sat upright, now alarm in his eyes. Why, I'm not a threat. To them, you're proof of what we still fear. She turned to face him. Connection. For a moment, the air between them felt electric, unspoken, fragile, but undeniably alive. Kyle stepped closer, wincing slightly, then paused beside her. Why did you really help me, Zali? She looked up at him and the world seemed to fall away. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Because I felt something I didn't understand. and I wanted to understand it with you." A slow smile touched Kyle's lips. "You know, on Earth, when we feel that, we usually start with something small, like sharing a meal or a story." Zali tilted her head. "I've never shared a meal with anyone before." "Then let's start there." She nodded. "I'll prepare something from my world." "Good," Kyle said, his grin growing. "But fair warning, I may compare it to awful military rations and ruin the whole experience. I'll take the risk." As they stood side by side, watching the clouds drift past, something gentle began to bloom between them, not yet a love story, but the first quiet chapters of one. It wasn't a kiss, it wasn't a promise, it was just this, two people standing in the same silence and no longer feeling alone. Kale had never seen anything like it. The thyron meal Zali prepared glowed faintly under the dim light of the arboretum canopy, veined leaves that shimmered with pale pink bioluminescence, soft root clusters steamed with an earthy sweetness, and thin crystalline slices that pulsed gently like they were alive. He leaned in, eyebrows raised. "Are any of these still moving?" Zali gave a small smirk. "Only the ones that like you." Kale laughed, the sound echoing softly through the glass-paneled chamber. The arboretum was quiet, peaceful. Vines curled along the walls. Pools of soft green light pulsed in rhythm with the Thyran moon overhead. Zali handed him a set of thin, reed-like utensils. Kyle held them awkwardly. "How do you even—" He waved them vaguely. "I'm gonna stab myself. Like this." She reached across, guiding his fingers carefully. Her touch lingered just long enough to make his breath catch. He glanced at her. She noticed, but said nothing. They sat across from each other on the low bench, the food between them. Kyle took a careful bite, his eyes widened. "Okay, that's actually amazing." Zali's eyes lit up. "Truly. Tastes like citrus and honey had a baby with grilled mushrooms." He took another bite. "I'm offended you people don't export this." "We don't share our food with outsiders," she said. "Or our hearts." Kyle paused, the bite halfway to his mouth. "And yet, here I am," he said softly. Zali looked down, then back up, her voice quiet. "You're not like others I've encountered." "How many others?" She hesitated. "None." He blinked. "Wait. I'm your first human interaction?" "Yes." Kyle leaned back slowly, eyes scanning her. "So, this? Us? It's all new to you." "All of it." She glanced at his mouth. Even what a kiss meant. He felt his chest stir. That same flutter from the crash site. "I can't stop thinking about that moment," she admitted. "The warmth, the stillness, it felt like being seen." Kyle nodded, suddenly serious. "That's what a real kiss is supposed to feel. Like—" Their eyes locked. The silence stretched but didn't feel empty. Just full, brimming with questions neither of them dared voice. Zali reached forward, brushing a strand of his hair back, mirroring what he had done to her earlier. Her fingers lingered near his temple. "I've studied 1,000 languages," she whispered, "but none of them prepare you for the ache of understanding another soul." Kyle swallowed hard. "You speak like a poet," he said. "I feel like a storm." She pulled her hand back, almost as if afraid she'd said too much. Kyle reached out, gently taking her fingers in his. "You're allowed to feel, Zali." "I don't know what's allowed anymore," she said. "All I know is, when I'm near you, the silence inside me stops echoing." Kyle leaned in, his voice quiet. "Then let's not worry about what's allowed, just what's real." She met his gaze. The air felt charged again. Not with danger, but with tenderness. They didn't kiss. Not yet. But Zali's fingers curled around his hand, and this time she didn't let go. In the canopy above them, a burst of light rippled across the sky, cosmic winds streaking color like brushstrokes on a canvas. Neither of them looked up. They were too busy listening to the sound of each other breathing in the quiet. Days passed in a blur of shared meals, quiet conversations, and stolen moments. Zali showed Kyle more of her world, introducing him to places few outsiders ever saw. They walked beneath the bioluminescent trees, their shadows stretching long in the evening light. In the distant horizon, floating gardens drifted like celestial islands, casting ripples on the nearby lakes. It felt surreal, yet real. Every day spent with her made the universe feel smaller, but every moment of closeness brought something else. Something heavy. Zali's silence grew heavier, more withdrawn. At first, Kyle thought it was just her nature, her way of keeping her thoughts to herself. But soon, he sensed it was more than that. They sat now in the small alcove of the arboretum, the space quiet except for the soft rustling of the plants. Zali's gaze was fixed on the floor, her fingers playing with the edge of her sleeve. "Zali?" Kale's voice was gentle. He reached out, brushing her hand with his. "Talk to me." She stiffened slightly but didn't pull away. "About what?" "I don't know. About you. About what's been going on inside you. You've been distant. Lately?" Zali's lips pressed together. She looked away, eyes scanning the swirling patterns of light outside the window. "I've been thinking. About how much I've risked for you. For us." She looked at him now, her gaze intense, but the sadness in her eyes made Kyle's heart clench. "The elders, they'll find out soon. I won't be able to hide you forever." "I don't care what they do to me," Kyle said quickly. "I care about you." She closed her eyes for a moment, as though his words were a weight. "It's not just about me. It's about my people, my duty. I've broken all of their rules just by spending time with you. Then let's break some more rules." Kale stood and moved closer to her, gently cupping her face in his hands. "We don't have to fight this." "I want to believe that," Zali whispered, her breath catching. She placed her hand over his, fingers trembling. "But I can't help but think, what if this is just a dream?" Kyle's pulse quickened. Her touch sent a rush of warmth through him. He had been hoping for this moment, when she'd finally let down the wall she had built between them. But now that it was here, he wasn't sure how to bridge the gap of uncertainty between them. "Zali, this is real," he said softly. "This, us, is real." She blinked, and the first tear slipped down her cheek. "I've never been this scared, Kale. I've never felt this way about anyone. I've always kept my distance because I knew that this kind of feeling could destroy everything I've worked for. But now I don't know if I can walk away from you." Her voice cracked on the last word, and Kyle's heart shattered at the vulnerability in her eyes. He pulled her into his arms, holding her close, feeling her tremble. Her body was stiff at first, but then she melted against him, her head resting on his chest. Her breath was soft against his skin, and for a moment everything else disappeared. He kissed the top of her head gently, the feeling of her hair between his fingers like silk. "I don't want to walk away from you either." For several long moments they just held each other, the world outside silent but for the occasional hum of energy fields. It felt like the universe had paused, as though holding its breath. When Zali finally pulled back, she looked up at him, eyes bright and filled with a mix of fear and hope. "Kyle, what happens if they find out? What happens if we're torn apart?" Kyle held her gaze, determination hardening his chest. "Then we fight. Together." Her lips trembled, the weight of her emotions clear. She closed the distance between them, her hand cupping his jaw before gently pulling his face toward hers. This time, when their lips met, it wasn't tentative. It wasn't a question. It was a promise. A kiss that spoke of all the things neither of them could put into words, the longing, the fear, the love, the defiance. It wasn't the kiss of a moment. It was the kiss of a future, uncertain but worth fighting for. They broke apart slowly, both breathless, their foreheads resting against each other. "Together," she whispered. Kyle nodded. "Together." Outside, the sky began to darken, the stars peeking through the clouds above. But for the first time, neither of them felt afraid of what the future might bring. The days grew shorter, and the tension in the air thickened with every passing moment. It wasn't just the looming threat of discovery. It was the weight of everything they had shared, everything they had learned about each other. Kyle found himself growing more attuned to the smallest details. The way Zali's fingers curled when she was deep in thought, the soft hum of her voice when she spoke to him, as if it carried the weight of entire galaxies. But there was something else. An unspoken fear, an undercurrent of doubt that lingered between them. One evening, Kyle found Zali standing at the edge of the balcony, her eyes lost in the expanse of the stars. Her profile was framed by the soft silver light from the twin moons. She looked distant, as though she was miles away, not just physically but emotionally. He stepped closer, careful not to startle her. "Zali?" She didn't turn at first, her gaze locked on the stars. "The elders are coming." Kyle's chest tightened. "How soon?" "Soon enough." She finally turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "They've sent scouts to track your ship. They're coming for you." "And for you," Kyle added quietly. Zali nodded. "Yes. They'll never allow this. They'll never allow what we've become." A hollow feeling settled in his stomach. "We knew the risks." Her eyes softened and she stepped closer to him, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought I could live without connection, without feeling. But now that I've had it, Kyle..." Her hand brushed his cheek. "I don't want to let go." Kyle's heart raced, his emotions swirling. "Then don't." Zali's eyes shimmered in the pale light. "I wish I could say I wasn't afraid. But I am. I'm terrified of losing you. Terrified of what they'll do to us." Kyle took her hands in his, holding them firmly. "Zali, we've already crossed the point of no return. No matter what happens next, I won't leave you. You're not alone in this." Her breath hitched, and for the first time, Zali allowed herself to close the distance between them. She rested her forehead against his, their hearts beating in sync. "I don't know what to do," she admitted, her voice thick with emotion. "I've spent my whole life following orders, and now I just want to follow my heart." Kyle's fingers gently brushed her jaw, his touch tender. "Then that's what we'll do. Together." She looked up at him, her eyes full of fear, but also trust, a trust he hadn't realized she'd given him until this moment. "I never thought I'd find something like this," she murmured, "something worth fighting for. And I never thought I'd find someone who makes me feel like I matter." Kyle's voice was thick with emotion. "But I do. Because of you." Her lips trembled, and for a moment, neither of them moved. The moment hung in the air, fragile yet undeniable. "Promise me," Zali whispered. "Promise me we'll face this together, no matter what happens." Kyle cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. "I promise. We'll face it together." The tension between them wasn't just fear anymore. It was resolve. A determination that no matter what the elders or the universe threw at them, they would face it together, unbreakable. Zali smiled softly, her eyes shimmering in the soft moonlight. "Then let's make it count." As their lips met once again, it wasn't just a kiss. It was a vow, a declaration, a promise that whatever the future held, they would remain bound by the strength of their love. The day the elders arrived, the air seemed to crackle with tension. Zali and Kale stood side by side in the central hall, the cold, sterile atmosphere of the chamber surrounding them. The tall, shadowed figures of the elders entered, their presence imposing, their eyes hard and unyielding. Zali's grip on Kyle's hand tightened. She was trying to stay calm, but Kyle could feel the tremor in her touch. "Zali, one of..." The elders, a woman with silver hair and piercing violet eyes, spoke. "You've broken the sacred bond of our people. You've defied the Council's laws and allowed this human into our most sacred spaces. This is unforgivable." Zali stood tall, her chin lifted in defiance, but Kale saw the fear beneath her brave exterior. She wasn't just afraid for herself, she was afraid for them both. "I did what I believed was right," she said, her voice steady but tinged with a quiet pain. "I chose what was real, and I chose Kale." The room fell silent, the tension thick enough to suffocate. The elder's gaze flickered between Zali and Kale, her eyes narrowing. "And you, human, what are you prepared to sacrifice for this bond? Are you willing to risk everything?" Kyle stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. "I would sacrifice anything for her. I will fight for her no matter what it costs me." Zali's hand found his again, and for a moment The world seemed to disappear. It was just the two of them, standing in the face of a universe that didn't understand their love. But in this moment, they didn't care about the rest of the world. One of the elders, a man with dark eyes and a stoic expression, stepped forward. He studied them for a long moment before speaking in a low voice. "You've both chosen your path, and that path will not be easy. There will be consequences, but perhaps you are the change our people need." The room went still, the weight of the moment hanging heavily. Zali's breath caught in her throat, and Kyle felt a rush of hope, a flicker of possibility in the air between them. "You would allow this?" Zali whispered. The elder gave a slow nod. "You will face punishment, but you will not be cast out. You will be allowed to remain together." Zali's eyes filled with unshed tears, and Kyle could feel the relief flooding her. "We'll be together?" "We will," the elder said firmly, "but you must know this. Your journey will not be an easy one. You will face challenges greater than you can imagine." Kyle squeezed Zali's hand. "We're ready for them." Zali looked up at him, the spark in her eyes reigniting. Together. The elders gave them a final look, a quiet acknowledgement, before turning to leave the chamber. The sound of their footsteps faded, leaving an eerie silence in their wake. Kyle turned to Zali, his heart swelling with a mixture of joy and uncertainty. "We did it. We're going to be okay." Zali smiled, her face a picture of soft relief and wonder. She reached up to cup his face, her touch gentle, tender. "We will be." The tension that had weighed on them for so long had finally lifted. It wasn't gone entirely. There would still be trials, still moments of doubt and fear. But they had crossed a threshold. They had made it through, and now the future was theirs to shape. Kale pulled her close, his heart full as he kissed her once again. This kiss was different from the others. It was filled with the promise of tomorrow, of everything they would build together. Zali pulled back, her forehead resting against his. "No matter what happens, Kale, we'll face it. Together." He smiled, his hands threading through her hair, pulling her closer. Together. The stars outside shone brighter than ever before, their light bathing them in its soft glow. The world might not understand them, but here, in this moment, they understood each other. And that was enough. And if this story moved you, share it with someone who loves powerful tales from distant worlds. Don't forget to like and let us know in the comments, what would you have done?